Okay, so there is this incredibly strange thing happening to millions of people all around the world right now. And honestly, the most frustrating part is that most of us have absolutely no idea why it's happening. You probably know the exact feeling I'm talking about. You fall asleep perfectly fine, you're exhausted, you close your eyes, and boom, within minutes you're out cold. But then, almost like clockwork, your eyes just ping wide open. Not at 2 a.m., not at 4 a.m., but almost exactly at 3 in the morning. And once you're awake, sleep just doesn't want to come back. You end up lying there staring blankly at the ceiling, doing that miserable mental math about how many hours of sleep you have left before the alarm goes off, and you're just getting more and more frustrated. Well, if this sounds all too familiar, you are in the exact right place, because this explainer is completely dedicated to solving this exact mystery.
Let's just clear the air right off the bat here. Why exactly 3 a.m.? Well, I want to reassure you that waking up at this very specific time is not simply a case of bad luck. It is definitely not a failure of your willpower, and it absolutely doesn't mean you lack sleep discipline. What we're actually looking at is a fascinating bodily mystery backed by real, measurable physiology. By the time we finish walking through this together, you're going to understand exactly what is happening under the hood in your biological systems when your eyes unexpectedly snap open in the dead of night.
To truly understand the why here, we have to look at the master controller of it all, your circadian rhythm. Think of it as a highly precise internal clock. And it doesn't just tell your brain when it's day or night, it is literally the conductor of your biology, controlling almost every single hormone in your system, including the crucial ones responsible for knocking you out and waking you back up. The really important detail to grasp is that when this internal clock gets disrupted, even just a tiny bit, it can cause you to wake up at the exact same time every single night. And diving into how this clock gets thrown off has led us straight to 4 major physiological suspects.
So let's dive right into our first major culprit. Suspect number 1, the hormonal alarm.
We need to talk about cortisol. It frequently gets mislabeled as just a stress hormone, but it's actually your body's primary natural alertness hormone. In a perfectly healthy system, cortisol follows a very predictable, smooth pattern. It bottoms out, hitting its absolute lowest point around midnight, and then it gradually starts rising to help you wake up feeling fresh and alert right around sunrise. Totally normal biology, right? But in an overactive system, which is super often caused by chronic stress or unresolved anxiety, that cortisol spike happens way prematurely. Instead of a gentle, rolling rise at 6 a.m., it just suddenly surges at 3 a.m. And when that happens, it literally yanks your brain straight out of deep sleep into a lighter, super alert state. That is the exact moment you find yourself suddenly wide awake, often with your heart thumping just a little bit faster than it should be.
All right, moving right along, that brings us to suspect number 2, blood sugar regulation.
Now, the connection between your sleep quality and your evening meals actually surprises a lot of people, but the relationship is incredibly strong. Let's trace this out. Say your last meal was super light, or you ate it really early in the evening, or maybe you just got busy and skipped dinner entirely. Throughout the night, your blood sugar levels are going to steadily decline. For most people, this decline hits rock bottom somewhere between 2 and 4 hours after eating. And biologically speaking, that crash typically lands right smack in that 2 to 4 a.m. window. When your blood sugar drops too low, your body doesn't just sleep through it. It interprets this sudden drop as a legitimate life-threatening emergency.
To handle this perceived emergency, your body sends in the cavalry. It releases counter-regulatory hormones, primarily adrenaline and cortisol, to quickly push glucose back into your bloodstream and save the day. But here's the massive catch. Adrenaline doesn't work quietly. It is the exact same hormone responsible for your fight or flight response. When it surges into your system to fix your blood sugar, it wakes you up with a jolt. This is exactly why you might wake up feeling a sudden, strange sense of anxiety or a racing heartbeat that seems to come out of absolutely nowhere. You were just sleeping, but your body was actively fighting a biological emergency.
Now, for a slightly different perspective, let's look at suspect number 3, the organ clock.
This framework is deeply rooted in traditional Chinese medicine, which uses this really fascinating concept known as the organ clock. According to this ancient model, different 2-hour windows throughout the day and night are assigned to peak activity in specific internal organs. And the window between 1 and 3 a.m.? That is directly associated with the liver. It's believed to be the liver's most active detoxification phase. The working theory here suggests that if your liver is overburdened, maybe it's stressed by a diet high in processed foods, alcohol consumption, certain medications, or honestly even just the cumulative effects of chronic daily stress, sleep disruption is highly likely to happen right in this peak window. Now, while Western medicine hasn't fully validated this exact system with the same rigorous clinical trials as, say, cortisol or blood sugar, it remains a heavily referenced framework. And interestingly enough, a ton of people who improve their diets and dial back their evening alcohol intake report a massive, undeniable reduction in these 3 a.m. wake-ups.
And that brings us to our fourth and quite possibly most universally relatable culprit. Suspect number 4, the mind. Think about it like this. During the day, your mind is constantly occupied. You're working, you're scrolling on your phone, you're putting out fires and problem solving. But at 3 a.m., none of that exists. The world is dead silent, there are absolutely zero distractions, and this is precisely the moment your brain often chooses to finally process everything it simply didn't have the time or space to process during the chaos of the day. Unfinished responsibilities at work, lingering financial worries, or just a vague, persistent sense of unease all suddenly surface with startling clarity. And this mental gymnastics routine doesn't happen in a vacuum. As those anxious thoughts start to intensify, your cortisol and adrenaline rise right along with them, essentially locking your brain into a fully alert, wakeful state. Your physical body is exhausted, but your mind has decided it's time to run a marathon.
Now, beyond those 4 core physiological suspects, we also have to look out for what we call secondary saboteurs.
These are basically the accomplices hiding in our everyday habits. They interfere with the deeper, restorative stages of your sleep cycle, and you probably never even consciously connect them to your 3 a.m. wake-up call. First off, exposure to bright screens in the hour before you go to bed directly suppresses melatonin, which is the exact hormone responsible for initiating and maintaining your sleep. Then there's your environment. A bedroom that is a little too warm, too bright, or too noisy significantly increases your chances of waking up. And we absolutely cannot forget caffeine. Even that totally innocent-seeming cup of coffee you had in the early afternoon can actually remain metabolically active in your system well into the dead of night. Okay, so now that we know the suspects, it's time for the good stuff. The resolution. How to stay asleep.
We've got a few actionable, step-by-step solutions to address these exact triggers. First, to head off that dreaded blood sugar crash, just avoid going to bed on a completely empty stomach. Eating a small, protein-balanced evening snack can do wonders to stabilize your glucose levels all through the night. Second, to give your brain the space it needs to wind down naturally and start pumping out that melatonin, you have to reduce your screen exposure for at least 30 to 60 minutes before hitting the pillow. And third, you need to become an active investigator of your own biology. Try tracking your food, your stress levels, and your alcohol intake for just 1 or 2 weeks. This super simple habit very often reveals a clear, undeniable personal trigger, saving you from guessing what's wrong indefinitely.
But what happens when you do wake up despite your best efforts? Listen to me carefully here. The absolute number 1 rule at 3 a.m. is do not check your phone. I know, it is such an understandable, almost automatic habit when you're lying there bored, but exposing your eyes to that bright artificial light in that highly specific moment signals instant daytime alertness to your brain. It essentially tricks your internal clock, making falling back asleep considerably harder, if not practically impossible. So instead of reaching for the phone to doom scroll, you're going to leverage your own physiology to calm your body back down. We're going to use a really simple, controlled breathing technique. Step 1, inhale deeply through your nose for a slow count of 4. Step 2, hold that breath for a count of 4. And step 3, exhale slowly and smoothly for a count of 4. By just lying there and repeating this specific cycle, you naturally and directly activate your parasympathetic nervous system. That's the built-in system in your body responsible for calming you down, and it acts as a direct counterattack to that jarring cortisol and adrenaline spike that just woke you up.
Now, I do need to throw in a really important caveat here. If you actually implement these lifestyle adjustments, you try the snacks, you ditch the screens, and this incredibly frustrating pattern still stubbornly persists over several weeks or months, it is time to loop in a medical professional. Recurring, middle-of-the-night awakenings that just won't quit can sometimes be linked to deeper underlying conditions, things like sleep apnea, thyroid dysfunction, or clinical anxiety disorders. And those things absolutely require proper medical diagnosis and targeted treatment, not just a handful of almonds before bed.
Ultimately, the big takeaway here is that waking up at 3 a.m. is not random. It is definitely not a glitch in your willpower, and it is certainly not a personal failure on your part. It is simply your body communicating a very specific, urgent message about what is happening internally. Whether that turns out to be elevated stress, unstable blood sugar, an overworked liver, or just an overactive mind that won't shut off. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this one thought to ponder tonight. What exactly is your biology trying to communicate to you in the quiet of the night? And more importantly, are you finally ready to listen to it?